How are we? How's your week started off, my man? Thanks for
Yeah,
jumping on.
that's all right. Yeah, it's good. What's Tuesday today? Yeah, it's been good. I'm gonna hit the gym later. But no, yeah, I've got a couple more days off before I have to go back to work. But yeah, I'm good. How's your week been?
Nice, calm, good start as well. And do you know what? It's funny you say about the training because I'm going to train later, but I actually felt inspired knowing that you're on
Yeah,
and I know that you're going to train. I feel like I've got to do it as well. So it's that kind of good
yeah,
motivation, even from that standpoint. So
100%.
I was also thinking I should actually plug the beard comb that I'm using because you've got a good beard.
Thank
You got a
you.
better beard than me. I've been using the Viking roller brush,
Yeah,
what I got from TikTok. So yeah, quick plug for that. Anyway, so thanks for jumping on, my man. And I'll start off with actually the conversation we had the other day. I didn't realize that there's another shared career between the two of us.
which is
So we both worked together at the airport, and
yeah,
then we spoke the other day.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which was what I found really interesting because in that conversation I was saying about how that had a big part of me starting this,
Yeah.
and everything that went with it, the intensity of the job, the feelings that come with it, the emotions and all that. So I'll can you tell me a bit about your experience working within that other role?
Yeah,
So within the prison service.
yeah. I worked as an operational support grade in OSG, so I wasn't as frontline as the prison officers themselves. Whereas they dealt with prisoners more often, we dealt with the prison side. We did have interactions with the prisoners. We would escort them around, stuff like that. We would do night shifts when we'd be on the wings at night, and it's just really intense. From the
Yep.
second you start, the prisoners are testing you to see if they can kind of get an in on, you know, possibly corrupting you, and you have to stay very firm. They try to offer you something, you say just no, you know,
100%.
that's not me. But you see that as soon as you start. My first day, and I had to escort I think it was a group of 8 or 9 prisoners around doing a specific job, you know, and they're trying to kind of basically they want to go where they want to go, whereas you have to say no. This is the route we're going to take. We're not going to go, past this cell where your best
Right.
mate is. We're going to go to where your job is.
So how did you find that, like, mentally or psychologically? Because each day, and it's something I can relate to, and it's not actually a criticism against a job role, but it's realizing my own feelings and emotions in it. Like, how did you feel going in each day, knowing that you're going to be sort of under that sort of test or that pressure?
I think it's incredibly intimidating. You're coming from like a normal way of life, on the outside world where you're not kind of tested on a regular basis, and you're coming across these men that they're in prison for a reason, and they have nothing to lose, and if they want to, they have to live by some a regime, and they're told where to go when they have to go, and if they see somebody who's newer, who doesn't know the rules, who doesn't know they have to go to this specific place, you know, they're going to test you, and it's it's testing on the mental side because you're coming from an outside world where everyone has free will, and now you're coming into a world where let's be honest, they don't have free will. They have to
Mm-hmm.
do these certain things, and if they can test the boundaries, they will. And I,
100%.
I I remember the first time I was tested, my heart, even though I stayed strong, my heart was pounding inside of my chest because on the daily life you don't get tested like that.
I can, well, I can 100% relate to that. And for me, it was like, I'm sure you can relate. It's like, so when they test you, you stand firm. No, that's not happening.
Yeah,
Then there's that feeling of now, what's next? What's their reaction going to be now?
yeah,
Because they might try and ramp up the aggression verbally or maybe physically, but you've got
yeah,
to think, okay, I've said no, I've got to now expect a reaction. And
yeah,
that was one of the things that I find really tough even till now.
yeah, 100%. I think as long as I say, I respect everybody that I meet until you lose it. So even though, they
Okay.
are in prison for a reason, I give people respect, and you know, I deserve the respect back. So even though they were testing me, I responded in a respectful way.
Mm.
They were like, okay, Gov, yeah, sure, let's go back to where we were supposed to go. You know, but if you respond in an aggressive way, no, you can't go there. Then of course you're going to get aggression back.
No, I hear that, and I think that's a balance that some people get wrong, isn't it? It's like because we may be in a position of authority over them, it doesn't mean you have to, like, you don't have to show that. You don't have to force that on them.
Yeah,
No, they already know that they have to. So if you could speak to them in that respectful way, then it
yeah,
does kind of make a difference a lot of the time.
yeah,
But when you're like, I'm in charge, this is my way, you will follow it, and you'll
yeah,
accept the way I tell you to do it, then you're usually stirring up a recipe for disaster, aren't you?
yeah, 100%.
So you went back from there back to where you currently are again. So what
Yes.
was it that forced that change, or why did you decide to make that decision?
Uh, I think it was a number of things. I think the work-life balance is a lot to handle. The shift pattern was just incredibly intense. You would go from doing what they called an all-day shift from 6 in the morning to 9 o'clock in the evening, and then they expect you back in the morning at 6:45. And
Ouch. Yeah.
I think it just got to a point where my body just couldn't handle that, you know, and not just my body, my mental state. I was physically exhausted, but also mentally exhausted. It got to a point where it felt like I was just, my whole life was work, and it got to a
Mm.
point where, I would hardly ever see my wife. And it would feel like that, we'd be somewhat passing just all the time. And it didn't feel like we actually got the quality time that we needed.
That must be hard. That must have been hard.
100%. It was especially hard, during the night shifts. You would do seven night shifts in a row every 6 weeks, and it got to a point where I would see my wife for maybe 10 minutes a day, because I'd be coming in from work and she'd be going out to work, and then she'd come back from work and I'd be leaving for work.
It's almost teasing each other, isn't
Yeah,
it? It's emotionally teasing each other.
yeah,
So.
100%. And it just got to a point where I knew I had to pick. I have to pick for my own welfare and my own lifestyle and my wife. I had to pick not to do the job anymore.
I hear that, completely hear that. So, as intense and high risk a job it is, I mean, there's going to be stuff you learn. What's like the biggest thing, if you can think, that you learn or you could take away from that job role?
Um, I'll just the one thing I would always say is I never regretted that job role, because it learnt me so many life skills, as just like the interpersonal skills,
Right.
you know, and how to treat people, and just on to keep everybody on the same level. It doesn't matter who they are, what they've done, that everybody just deserves respect.
I like that. I like that. And again, I can relate to that because it's one thing I've always said to people, and it's no disrespect to other places I've worked at. I've probably learned more in 1 year of the job role that I'm in
Yeah,
now than I have anywhere else because, like you said, the interpersonal skills, the changing dynamics of people. Someone could be like this one day, the next day they've changed.
yeah,
Two people can move into the same unit as each other and it completely changes how. So you've got to be able to adapt and
yeah,
expect the unexpected every second in the day of the day. And you know, like you said, you learn so much in that role.
yeah.
So moving forward, I'm going to go to what's kind of brought us talking today. And I was, what do you call it, doom scrolling on your social media sites or whatnot. I seen your site and then I saw the bulky to hulky,
Yeah,
which was quite interesting because anything to do with fitness or training, I'll always have a look. And I remember clicking on, seeing some of the posts, seeing you train, some of the things you were saying with it, which really sort of, for me, showed accountability.
yeah,
And I know you've been on training in missions or fitness missions before, but there was something that seemed really serious and really genuine and really sort of, this is it. I'm not taking no shit this time round.
yeah,
And that really did come across. And I was following your post to the point of, okay, let me reach out and see if I can have a conversation with him because I really like what you're doing, and I think what you're doing is a big thing. So, bulky to hulky, talk to us.
Obviously, as you said, I've always been larger my entire life. The 31 years I've been alive, and I have in the past. I've gone through the motions of going to the gym, losing a couple of stone, and then just kind of regressing back to my old ways. And this time, obviously, it's gotten to a point. Me and my wife want kids now, and it just kind of clicked in my head. You know, you see all of these ads online all the time about fathers getting life insurance and being there for their kids, and I thought to myself, it's not sustainable. For my future kids, I need to be there for their entire lives, as long as I can go. And being the size that I am and was, I need to change. So I kind of, I started to lose weight. I lost, I think it was about 10 kilos. And then I thought I was making progress, but I felt like I needed some guidance. So a friend of mine basically recommended this online coach. And obviously I spoke with him, and just from how he was talking, I just instantly thought, you know what, I need that. Which is for me, the main thing is the accountability. And I do he's got everything from me: my nutrition plan, my workout plan. We have a weekly weigh-ins, so I can see the progress. And it got to a point where, even though I was making progress, I could feel, I don't even like an inkling, but kind of like losing the motivation.
Right.
And I don't know what came over me one day. I thought, do you know what? Let's make an Instagram, and that has just kind of like reignited the motivation and the accountability. I'm posting my workouts every time I go to the gym. I'm doing posts, and I know if I stop doing that, especially people from work, they come up to me every day, bulky to hulky, stuff like that. I know if I was to stop that now, people would be like, what's happening?
Yeah.
They can see from my Instagram how hard I'm working. They can see the physical changes, and it's just kind of like, it started like the momentum now that I know I can't stop. Not just for other people, but for myself and for my wife and for our future kids.
That's what I was going to say. I think that's such a beautiful story that you're going to be able to tell your future kids when they look at pictures and, however they word it, oh, dad, you're bigger here and now and you explain at that age that when they're old enough to understand that this was for you. These changes were made for you. I mean, that's such a beautiful thing. So
100%, yeah.
And you also touched on one of the other things I was going to ask. I didn't know if you actually had a PT trainer or you were just set up by a PT trainer to follow this routine. So, do you want to put his name out there?
It's Ollie Rules Coaching. He's mostly online coaching, but we have met quite a few times now to do PT sessions. And it's funny because I say this to him every time. I do my sessions every week. I try to do minimum 4 times a week. If I can get 5 times the sessions, I will. And I do work hard in those sessions. I push myself. But then when you, for example, do a PT session with him, or I go to the gym with my wife, when that other person is pushing you, when you're on that last rep, and you've got that person to say, no, do one more, no, another one, and you do them, you can feel the difference in the burn. I was in the gym with my wife the other night. We were doing ab crunches, and she was pushing me to do more ab crunches than I would have. And yesterday and today, I can feel it.
Good.
Whereas if I was by myself, I know you get to a certain point and you'd be like, do you know what, I'm done. But you have that extra person there to push you, and that's what he really does. Ollie pushes me to my breaking point, and it pushes me even further, which I think I love, because you can only go so far by yourself. But when you've got that person to really push you, it's great.
That answers another one of the questions I was going to ask. I'll say who else is on your team, and it's clearly your wife because she's training with you as well.
Yeah.
So and I
I
also
always
liked.
say
Sorry, Karen.
she's my biggest supporter. No, she's here on my highs and my lows, and I know when I'm on my super low and I'm really kind of mentally like exhausted, she's there to kind of pick me up, and whisper in my ear that I've got it. You can do it. Look at the progress you've made. I know you've got this. I can see, by the end of 2026, you're going to be where you want to be.
So it's almost like, dare I say, a best friend as well.
Oh, 100%.
Good. Oh, excellent.
My wife, my best friend, my soulmate. I love her.
Yeah, I think I saw my girlfriend on this live a minute ago, so she's probably going to tell me I need to fix up and be more like you now. So cheers a lot, my man. Um, another thing I liked with the training, you said, I like that you said you try and train at least 4 times a week. Now, the reason I say that is because you would have heard it before. You get people that start training and they say, I'm going to go train, I'm going to train 7 days a week or 6 days a week. And in your mind, you think that's not sustainable.
No.
And you may tell them, try do 3 and 4. And they're like, no, I'm going to go 6 or 7. And it's like, okay, but they're going to burn out. And once they hit that burnout, it usually deflates them.
Yeah.
But I like the realisticness of I want to train at least 4 times a week. If you get a fifth time in, that's, it's a bonus.
Yeah.
So
I think it's one of those things where, when I first started, I could have said, you know what, 7 days a week, I'm going to be in that gym. And yes, I probably could have lost a lot more weight. But as you said, you go 6 to 7 times a week, a month or two down the line, you're just going to be burnt out. You're going to be like, I don't want to go anymore. My body aches all the time. Whereas to me, 4-5 times a week, and if I can get it in, gives me those kind of 2 rest days to kind of let my body and my mind kind of just relax and chill from the sessions.
So for people that are either starting their fitness journey, or maybe they've fallen off the wagon somewhere and they want to get back on it, what advice would you give them? What simple advice?
It's funny because you say that. I was definitely one of those people. And for me, it's just consistency. That first couple of times, that first month might be extremely hard, which it will be because it was for me. The gym social anxiety still is slightly here for me, but it was.
So talk to me quickly about that. That's an important point. So
when I first started going to the gym, I'd go in a hoodie. I'd have my hood up. I wouldn't look at anybody. I would try to go at the quietest times that I could, because I felt like when I was going to the gym, because of my size, everyone was looking at me, judging me, saying, why is he here? Look at him, he's disgusting. But I've kind of come to a realization that when you're in the gym, no one's looking at you. They're all there, they're all locked into their own gym sessions. We've all gone to the gym for our own reasons. I'm there to lose weight and to get into the best, version of myself. They could be there for all their other reasons. And if anything, people there are just, what's the word? They're pushing you. They're not trying to, you might have the bad eggs, but there's bad eggs everywhere. Right. But everyone there, when I'm doing my sets and I push myself, I can see a guy, smiling at me, saying, good set or anything like that. And they're all just there doing their own thing. No one's staring at you. They're all there just to do their workout and then go home exactly like I do it.
So is there a feeling of that, the more you show up, the more it's almost not that you need their respect, but you kind of gain the respect. So they're like, okay, he's come back again. He's come back. He's serious about that. And
100%.
And it's like you said, then they're kind of rooting for you in that way, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I go normally 2 different time sets. I'll sometimes go after a night shift, so I'll be going to the gym at 3:30 in the morning.
You're better than me. I can never do that. Carry on, jeez.
And I'll go maybe sometimes in the afternoon. And you begin once you start going there consistently, you start seeing the same people. I know when I go to the gym at 3:00 in the morning, I see the same four people there nearly every time I go. You know, when I go in the afternoon, I normally see the same five or six people there. And if anything, it pushes me because I know if they're turning up, I need to turn up. You know, you know, and it's kind of a motivation that I know they're going to be there. So if they're there, I need to be there. I need to work on myself.
But that's also going to work the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because if you're showing up regularly, they're going to be thinking, well, I need to make sure I'm here because I know Ollie's going to be there. So, like you said, even if it's not said out loud,
yeah,
it's all going to be, you're all going to be motivating each other. So
100%.
that's really good. So sorry, I did digress. So back to if you had so any other advice you would give people, like
Um,
just to keep them going, get them
I
back on.
think to start off with, it's the I used to be the worst for this. I'd be like, do you know what? I'll start on Monday.
Right.
No, no. Do you know what? It's Saturday today. I'll start on Monday. But I think what I learned was, don't start on Monday. Start today. You know, I really think about it now. How much spare time I used to have. I would sit on the couch and just eat chocolate, crisps, all that bad food for hours watching mindless television when I could have just got up, put my trainers on, go for a walk, put my trainers on, go to the gym for an hour. And it's just kind of that, like, what's the word? It's like, it's now, it's time, stop what you're doing, your days off from work or after work or before work, just go do it. And you will feel so much better afterwards. You know, for me, the hardest thing was getting to the gym. You
Right.
know, it's always just getting up, getting in the car, driving for me 5 minutes down the road. But once I'm there, I would smash out a workout and I'd feel so much better. And I would think to myself, God, why was it so hard to get here? But now I've been here and I feel amazing. And I think it's just, that kind of like call to arms. Don't wait about, just go.
No, I hear that. And there's that beautiful feeling, like you said, once you've completed the workout, it's done. I mean, like on my fridge, I write down my workouts I've done each week. So I love to be able to write down this workout's complete or tick it off on my phone because,
Yeah.
it's something you've completed and it's something that's challenging and testing, but you've completed it. And, that's one of your however many workouts a week that you're doing. So,
100%. And I think for me, that's what I like. With my trainer, he's got his own app, and it shows you, what workouts you've completed, what you've lifted, how many sets you've done, and I like to like maybe at the end of the week I'll be laying in bed before I go to sleep, and I can see, oh, I've done 5 sessions this week. Oh, I've I've lifted a lot more than I have before, and it kind of while before I go to bed, it kind of makes me proud of what I've accomplished.
100%,
And
yeah.
I know, in the week coming, I'm going to smash those PBs and I'm going to go even, heavier or stronger or, I'll run for longer.
It's just come into my mind, and it's something I forgot to say earlier. I liked talking about falling off the wagon or whatnot, and setbacks, and then continuing forward, persisting. I liked it when it come to Christmas. You you stated about how you'd put on a bit of weight over Christmas, what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's standard. But I liked that you were accountable for that, and you put. But I'll get back on it. I can't remember word for word what you put, and I knew you would. I knew
Yeah.
you would. But it's like again, can you talk a bit about that, where it's important when people do take that step backwards that they
Yeah.
don't give up?
I think it's definitely tough because I think everybody has their moments. I don't know, Christmas time. When I was coming up to Christmas, I mentally I was thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to eat anything. I'm literally going to not enjoy myself over the Christmas period. I'll continue what I was doing. I was eating I was meal prepping, and then I'll eat that, and I won't have any enjoyment. But my PT, he was like, don't do that to yourself. You all deserve happiness in your life. Less, everybody puts on a bit of weight over Christmas. It's just jumping back into the saddle afterwards and kind of getting back on it. Really, just kind of like shows who you are. I've had it in the past where I've been on track. I've lost 1 or 2 stone, and then I've gone on holiday and I've eaten crap food, and I've just kind of been like, oh, do you know what? I'll leave it, and I just kind of I think the motivation behind me this time has been like that's not going to happen. No,
That shows.
I'm not
It
doing
shows.
I'm not doing it just for me. I'm doing it for my wife and my future kids, and they deserve better.
And you're doing it for everyone else that's following your journey as well.
Yeah.
So there is so much, and it's good. But it seems like you're thriving with that pressure. Do
Oh,
you know what I mean?
100%.
So
Yeah. It's really, it's kind of like kind of like a person behind me pushing me forward. You know, when I can feel myself slowing down, it's just giving me that extra push forward to kind of continue.
I like that. So last question: what does the next 10 years look like for Ollie,
Gosh.
or would you like the next 10 years to look like?
So I think next 10 years, I like to say I'm gonna get to where I want to be physically, maybe in this year to come. And then obviously I think I've started now this kind of like enjoyment of the gym. For me now it's kind of like I have to go. If I
It's
don't
part
go,
of your life now, right?
yeah,
It's
if
part of
I
your
don't
life.
go, I get annoyed with myself. And I think I'm gonna be a gym go for the rest of my life now. I'm gonna be going 4 or 5 times a week for the rest of my life. I might not be going to lose weight anymore, just to maintain it, but I'll be going for the rest of my life. And I think I see myself in the next 10 years having kids, you know, getting higher in my workplace, going up the management ladder, and really just being in a point where I can look back at myself and be like, do you know what? I'm happy where I am. I'm kind of complete.
I love that. I love that. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And you generally look happy. You generally look happy.
I
Um,
think,
you know,
I think,
life is we have the ups and downs, but overall, your default, you look happy. And even when I spoke to you, there's a brilliant energy about you. So
I think this is probably this point now is the happiest kind of like time that I've ever been in my life. I've never been this motivated about change. I found my soulmate, my wife, and I think for the first time there's going to be like a happy ever after, so to
that's
say.
brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, what a way to finish up. That's brilliant. So where can people follow your journey?
Well, you can follow my journey on Instagram, bulky to hulky. I post there nearly every day. My motivations, my gym sessions, and just the journey itself, the meal preps, the highs, and I'm gonna start posting, the lows as well. What motivates me from going to the lows to the highs, but just follow my journey.
And if people wanted to DM you for advice or
A
just
hundred
can
hundred
they do
percent.
that?
Yeah, no,
Oh, brilliant.
I want to be the motivation. I want to inspire people. I've had a couple of people come up to work and say, I've been going to the gym now because I've seen you smashing it. And you know what? I never thought I would be able to say I inspire people, but no, I want to inspire as many people as I can.
You're doing it. You're doing it, and keep doing it. And I will follow the journey. I'm loving following the journey. Really appreciate you jumping on today.
Thank you.
It's been a great conversation, and I wish you the best. And I will keep in contact with you.
Definitely,
So
100%.
yeah, thank you so much for jumping on.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your workout.
I will.
Yeah, and
You
I
enjoy
will
your
catch.
workout.
I will. I've got to stick to it as well now. So
Exactly.
and I'll catch up with you soon.
Catch
Yeah.
up with you soon.
Thank you very much.